Hi, and here we go. Keep on painting. I don't think I painted over him. Did you see the profile of the guy? Here's his two little antlers coming out. There's his face of his profile, a large nose, a little mouth. That's what I was talking about in the last video. It was kind of funny. I didn't actually see it till I was putting the videos together. Alright, in this triangle here, we've got a wee bit of the plant. And then covering. More paint kills. Such a bad habit to paint with no paint. I don't know where I developed that actually. I tend to put too much rock and roll into the figure, the anatomy of the figure, too much exaggeration. I like it, but at the same time, it's just sometimes it's too much. And the thing is, if you're going to exaggerate something, you kind of need to know what you're doing, because otherwise it's going to be a hit or miss whether it's going to work. And again, you can see I'm making sure I cover all the places that are river, but not too concerned actually about and I need a wee bit more green in there, I think. I'm not too concerned about cleaning up the inside, the back here, and also the arm here, because they're actually more in shadow. They're going to be darker tones than this. In fact, here is a perfect opportunity to blend the dark of the skin against the dark of the water. They get to be close in tone. You don't want them to be super close so that you don't differentiate the two forms, but I do want to have this sort of blend in with that, because the lost and found edges is one of the beautiful things to do in a painting. Actually, even in a sculpture, but it's a little different way to think, I think. Alright, what else have I got showing? Maybe a wee bit here behind his shoulders. Or his shoulder is plural. I'm not really sure what I've got going on here, because I took out some plants before. Wait. Maybe that. Nope, those are other flowers, I think. Well, here, let's put some... Oh, wait. Way too dark. Because I want the plants, I think, to be darker. So in that case, I need to be lightening this to give me some ground. Even if I don't get the right tone at this point, I would like to have a closer relationship. The color can be off, because color's not really that important as far as creating depth goes. What is important is that I get the light and tone, the light and dark relationship well figured out, and that then I can fix the color as I feel like I want to. And again, as I said, I like to have layers of different colors, but tone is such a beautiful thing. For me, it's more important than color is to make my understanding of the world, or understanding of what I want to communicate with you. It makes things touchable, and I'm so into that. The thing about art, you know, everyone teaches their processes, and that's all fine and dandy, but what I have found for myself, and perhaps lots of other people, is that you, at some point, you're combining many different things that you've learned from many different people and putting it through your own filter, and that allows you a lot of freedom be who you are. It means you can improve your voice, your technique, that sort of thing. But hopefully your own view of the world or how to do things is going to be uniquely yours. Just as someone who collects art ends up becoming a unique collection. It's because it's that person's vision. And even if he's not creating the art, he's still putting it all together. And maybe think of a collector as a collage artist, if you like. I think that's kind of fun to do. Because you give them credit, everybody makes their own collections. No one's got two the same. So, that is to say that uniqueness can be overrated. I don't mean to be rude about that, but just because something is unique. Unique is, you know, I started a collection years ago of words that people use at an art reception or any other situation such as that when they don't like what they see, but they don't have the courage to actually come out and say, you know, the emperor's got no clothes. So, and you know, it's subjective anyway, and nobody likes to be rejected for any reason whatsoever, so it's kind of sweet that people have come up with these things. But, you know, words such as different, interesting, remarkable. What does that mean? You can remark on it. What does that actually mean? Absolutely nothing. But people say it. So I feel when somebody gives me a word that's non-specific, such as different or interesting, you know, things that could be interpreted to mean any number of things, positive or negative or neutral. All I can think is that, well, God, at least they didn't choose boring. But other than that, I just feel that I've just been insulted because I failed to communicate something to somebody, and that was my whole point for doing this. But, you know, it's not something to be upset about. I mean, I listen to all the critics, but at the end, I have to decide for myself what works for me and what doesn't, right? Okay, I don't know that I believe it's water, but again, it's too early for me to judge, and it's too early for me to expect myself to get this perfectly done, because again, everything is a relationship, and you can't have things be relative if you don't have all the things in place. So maybe a touch of blue on this. I don't like where that yellow got too kind of icky. And again, you can see I'm doing horizontal strokes. Now, what have I got here? Got here is a bunch of I don't know. So, with a bunch of the I don't know, I think I'm going to go ahead and make it river water. I can always put leaves on top of it, and the texture will be fine. I can come through later and make it something. I just don't want to... Actually, this is a good opportunity again for a lost edge into his skull. I don't want to have to try to, first of all, match these colors that I've done, although when you have a limited palette, that gets a little easier, doesn't it? But mainly, for efficiency's sake, it would be easier if this was done, and then later I made up my mind what I want to do with this sort of thing. But what is that? That's a branch. There's a bunch of fluffy flowers coming out, so let me just do this, knock this down, get this out of the way. Okay. Now if I put too much spirits into this, it's great because it glides across the wood much prettier, but it also means that I'm not going to have any individual strokes. And while I'm talking about doing the stroking thing, and then I go back and I soften the thing, the question, the deal is that everything that you hear has some truth to it. And your real trick is not to discover who's lying or who's telling the truth, because frankly everyone has their own truth. And debate that all you want, because my truth is you're probably not going to change my mind on how I feel about that. But the thing that is the trick is to figure out when is that particular statement applicable and when isn't it. Because I can tell you all I want about soften this edge, and don't do this or never do that, and you're going to always have a situation where that ends up, the thing that was your strength in one situation turns out to be a weak point in another situation. And knowing that difference is going to help you go places. And so everything is true, just pick your poison, pick your time. But it's also what makes it difficult for me to argue with people at times. I mean, in a way, no, because obviously I have my opinions and I know what they are, but it, if someone phrases an argument such as, my experience is this, or my emotion or reaction to certain thing is that, how can anybody argue with that? That's an individual's perception, and I'm going to try not to leave too many ridges. I know I'm going to paint the outside of this canvas here when I'm done, but I don't want to have a thick blob of anything left there, so that's another thing that I'm thinking about. Okay, so what do I have here? I have a big rock and maybe a hole here, maybe a hole here. I think that may be another rock going in. Okay, so one thing standing back is I don't like it how his figure divides this greener brown with this yellower brown. So I'm going to be throwing in a little more. I want consistency so that this reads as the same river. And even though I don't really have this information here, it doesn't make sense that somehow a kid sitting there, he's going to sit right on the border of where it's different. So throw in a wee bit of green. I'm going to do it in the shape of sort of these rounded rocks. And when I do it, I'm going to add green to the mixture of white and raw umber, because if I just throw the green in there, it's going to be out of context with things. But if I mix it with sort of the base color of what I've been working on, I have a better chance of getting things to be cohesive. So again, it seems like I just contradicted myself, because I'm working basically with a field color, and yet I'm not working with a field color. back again. Okay, you can see at the top there, this section looks a little more joined than that. And so that means I need to do a little bit more work in this area. And this is where I like having a model done because it stops me from being too consistent. Get down here, I've got foliage that is the reality here, but and then I've got this other rock coming up here, going down there. Okay, and then so there's going to be some skin tones reflected in the water, but first I think I'm going to put in some water. Now the water gets grayish as it's here. This part in light of the water, because this is a shadow from this rock that's happening, and it's more brown, but this is more of a greenish, cool green color. So let me go ahead and establish that as well. Don't want it too bright though. It's darker up near the hand and near the rocks. It's going to be dark in between here. And then of course the rocks are going to have some black. Okay, you take a break to put some more paint out. I used to tell my students, it's been a while since I've taught an actual class, I just give private lessons now. If you want it to look like the model, you have to look at the model, because it was amazing to me that in sculpture, and also actually in painting, it's so easy to get wrapped up in falling in love with watching these things happening right in front of you that you're, you know, participating in and doing, but you find at times that you don't really remember what you're going for, because you get kind of in this sort of a trance state, especially if you listen to peaceful music like this. That kind of is a Calgon take me away moment, you know. I'm just seriously in my own world. And that can be delicious. Magically delicious. Okay, so here again I don't see what's going on over here because I haven't decided what I'm going to draw in, so let me keep some of this river here going. And again, it gets greener over here. It's going to get darker with his shadow of his arm and hand as it's cast down, but I worry about these things and I don't worry about these things. And I always say worry, I mean I'm not worried. I'm concerned, I should say. Busy. My brain is thinking about the future and thinking about what I might want to do here or there. Okay, I don't want that to be more rock-like shape. I'm actually shaping this as I go and cut into here a little bit. And I'm thinking, do I want a perfectly flat top on this rock? No, I probably don't, so it's probably going to arch over a little bit there. But I'll get to the rocks in just a little bit. Right now I just want a sort of swishy and put in a wee bit of dark, but again I don't want the green to be too strong, so I'm going to mix it with my umber and white concoction. But it's nice to use darkeners that aren't black, because quite a few of the pigments that we have are actually quite dark, and of course you're going to have dark under shadows of things, and then it's going to get gradually lighter as it goes into this water reflection here, but and keep all those edges soft again. Okay, that's enough for now. When I get to really focus on the water and the edges and things, that'll get a little bit better on it. Now that I can go ahead and put some numbers in here. I love how I contradict myself a lot. Change my mind. But you know, sometimes the very act of actually saying something makes you think, you know, that's actually not a bad idea. Let me go ahead and do that now. And there are times when it's better to wait to focus on a thing, and there's another time I'll just make myself a quick little note. Oh, do this, you know, put in that thing here, but and step back. All right. Makes a little bit of lighter tone in here. I want the water here to be dark enough so that I can see the stones, because the stones are going to be a kind of a light gray. But I have to say it's one of the beauties of painting in layers is the more you do it, the more you get a better idea of what sort of things you should be watching for so that you can do your layers. So, because it's easier once you know the end of the story to go back and place things back into the middle as you need to. Better? Okay, and this is kind of a yellowy green, so I want to put a wee bit more, a little more punchy color into this. Not too much. And I want to err on keeping it light. It's easier to go darker than it is to keep light, so you kind of want to keep that in mind sometimes. Although I have had plenty of times where I just couldn't make things dark enough. So again, it's one of those everything is true, and it depends on the context and what happened before and what happened in the middle and all these sorts of things. Ah, that's just too yellow. See, I don't care for that at all. So alright, so here's what we do faster than trying to brush it out with spirits. Is just take, I've got a green rag here because I figure if I err on the green side, that's kind of what I want to do, so I don't really care that it's a clean white rag. But this yellow is just too intense. general, I don't like yellow too much, unless, I mean, I like yellow in nature, but I don't, as a rule, it's just like, my brain has always said, you know, that's just what happy people like. Doesn't work for me. But that doesn't mean that I'm depressed all the time. It just means that I don't trust people that are too positive. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I just feel like you need to take everything as it is as a picture, and people are complicated, and so are situations at times, although, you know, sometimes it is nice to say what's the bottom line of what you want, and are you getting it? That's a good way to look at things too, because sometimes people end up doing things sometimes that are against their original goal because of the way that the process sort of unfolded itself, and one thing led to another and another. The next thing you know, you find that you have the life that you didn't really shoot for, or something, and I find that's depressing, because where do you go after that? Okay, I need to quit having fun there. Still too yellow, but you know, the tone is actually right, and again, I'll work on the color later, but right now my brain keeps thinking, I want to move ahead. I really, really, really want to get into the figure. However, I don't know if I'll do the foliage right now at this point, because I've got enough here to relate to put the figure in. But right now the important part is for me to add in the grays of the rocks, and let me get at least a two-tone pattern for the stone, and then once I get the stone kind of figured out, then I can zoom into him, and then we just keep developing and developing and developing as we go. Okay? Thank you for watching.